All right, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of key comics that have seen their values come down over the last quarter. And at least one of these books has seen a value decrease of 54% over the last year. Stay tuned. All right, so the first book that we're going to look at is arguably one of the hottest books around and has been for quite some time. We are talking about Hulk issue 181. This is a fantastic book that a lot of people want to get their hands on in just about any grade because it is the first full appearance of Wolverine. And I want to start things off by first taking a look at the 9.0 for this book, which is a pretty high grade for this comic, but there are also 970 of them on the census for CGC. 380 of them have traded hands. This book has a FMV of $7,750 according to Go Collect. And the good thing is that we have 1 year, 90-day, and 30-day data. So I'm actually going to blow this up a little bit bigger so that you all can see what this looks like. And again, this data all comes from Go Collect. This is the CGC 9.0 blue label. And you can see here from the chart that this book has taken a little bit of a decline from a value perspective. And if we zoom in here and look specifically at December, the most recent sale for this book was $7,650. And if we back up to the start of the quarter, which was in October, this book was selling for $8,700. And if you do the math on that, that is about $1,050 decrease over the course of this quarter alone, or about a 12% decline. Maybe not the largest decline that we've seen in this series, but still a decline nevertheless. I think you can potentially tell a slightly better story, if you will, of how this book has performed when you back up to the start of the year. January 2022, this book was selling for $11,887. And again, it has declined to $76.50, which is a $4,200 decline from the start of the year to the last month of the year, which is about a 36%, my apology, decline. You can again kind of sort of see that play out a little bit here. The 1 year average for this book is 9,800, the 90-day 8,000, and the 30-day slightly lower at about 7,850. And of course, you can see that play out in these individual sales, a lot of which came from Heritage and also eBay. Golding, I think that is the first time that I've seen Golding on the list. I don't know that I've noticed that before. So that's really interesting that Go Collect is incorporating that data. So I think that's definitely a good thing. So let's back up. And I want to take a look at one additional book here. But as I kind of scroll down this list for people, fingers crossed that you can actually see this, we do see the value of this book declining, generally speaking, from the 1 year to the 90-day to the 30-day. This is something that is happening across a lot of the grades. But I want to take a moment and zoom in a little bit on this 5.5, a little bit lower down on the census count, a little bit lower down on the grading scale, but a solid book nevertheless, even at a 5.5. The census shows about 750 copies, 266 have traded hands. FMV is just short of $3,000. So let's go ahead and jump into this one and take a look at what we see. And the story is slightly different here. It's a slightly different story. You see a little bit of a hockey stick with this 5.5. Which may tell us a little something here. The last sale for this book at a 5.5, according to Go Collect, was $37.50, and that was in the month of November. And if we back up to the beginning of the quarter, let's see if we can find October here. If we can find October, there we go. October, $3,500. This book has actually gone up $250 or 7% from the start of the quarter to the last sale in November. No clue how it's performing presently in December. We don't have that data at the moment. So we will see whether that trend, that hockey stick that we see here at the end, actually continues upward, or if the book actually takes a decline. But like with the last book, I actually want to back up just a little bit and look at how this book actually started the year. So let's go back to January. January of this year, this book was selling for $4,950. $50 roughly. And as I just mentioned, the book is selling most recently for $37.50. That is a $1,200 decline from the start of the year to the last month of the year, which represents about a 24% decline. Now, potentially what we are seeing here is that maybe the prices for this book have not declined, maybe the way that we have seen for the way that we've seen other books, right? The values have come down, no doubt about it, but it's maybe not as large as what we've seen before. And maybe this is a testament to people's desire to own this book and to have this book in their collection. We do see declines at the 4.5, the 1 year average 3,500, the 30-day average 3,100. So I mean, again, yes, it's coming down, but maybe not the massive declines that we've seen in other books in previous videos, and maybe even some of which we're going to look at in this video itself. So let me go ahead and shrink this down, and we will take a look at another example here. I want to interrupt for a moment to tell you all about some changes that are coming to one of my favorite online resources, that being comicspriceguide.com. This is the largest pricing database out there with more than 1 million comics. And as of today, they are making some changes to their website to make it even more user-friendly than it was before. And I want to highlight just a couple of the enhancements that you will see when they make this live today. On the right-hand side, you can see a box that has new comics, but this is also new comics and newly added comics to the database. As you work your way down the page on the right-hand side, CPG gains and drops. These are books that, of course, have seen their values fluctuate either up or down. On the left-hand side, I've keyed in a couple of my own books, 3 to be exact, that I want to keep track of. 2 have decreased in value. 1 has actually increased in value. And what's really cool is that at a glance, you can actually see how these books are performing. Behind each one of the books, you have a little bit of a halo. It's either green for positive increase or red for negative. And then you also have some additional detail off to the side that gives you the dollar amount as well as the percent increase or decrease that can be seen with that book. As we work our way down the page, there are some additional boxes. On the right-hand side, we see my top issues, of course, some other books that I've keyed in. On the left side, CPG watch list. These are books that they are keeping an eye on. And what's really cool is that each one of these boxes has an arrow in the lower right-hand corner that allows you to go a little bit deeper and to see some additional books. And when we click this arrow, what we see here under the watch list is that we have an ability to look at some books that are heating up, but we also can look at books that have cooled off, that have seen their values decline. So I think that's a really cool feature that they've added in there. And then as you work your way down the page, there's some additional ways to kind of categorize things. There's my collection on the left-hand side, and on the right, there is my want list. And if you've been following my channel, you are not surprised by any of those books that are included on the right-hand side. Again, these are all wonderful enhancements that are being made to comicspriceguide.com that I think are amazing. One of the really cool features that I want to highlight for you guys is this area right here. It's called boxes. This gives you the ability to organize a digital collection that may mimic what you do physically, or it could be completely independent. What I've done is thrown up a couple of boxes here. The first 2 are Amazing Spider-Man, boxes 1 of 9 and 2 of 9. And you can see that I've even put a couple of books in there that have a value of about $88. I also have my Oh Sugar box. And my thought here is that I can actually replicate my Oh Sugar box to be able to see how that collection, or that box, if you will, is actually performing once I plug those values in. I have a box across the room called To Be Graded. These are books that I'm thinking about sending in to be graded, and so I have them set aside. I have the ability to plug them in here and to be able to track the values to maybe trigger me sending them off to actually be graded. And then the last box that I have here is Major Keys. Again, a physical box here in the room that I've decided to replicate inside of the database. And so I wanted to take a moment again to tell you guys about these enhancements. I am very excited about what comicspriceguide.com is going to do. I hope you all will visit them and check them out today. We're going to look at a book that I think has been somewhat popular. A lot of people were going after this book at various points over this last year. I keep having the feeling that I had this book in the collection, but for some reason, I'm unable to locate it. I keep thinking that it's going to magically appear somewhere, anywhere, but this is the first appearance of the Young Avengers. And this is, of course, Young Avengers issue #1 from 2005. I had a brief stint in comics before this most recent stint that was in 2005, 2006. That's why I feel like I have this book somewhere. Maybe it's just my poor memory. With modern comics, I am a huge fan of going after the 9.8. I think that that really is the sweet spot in a lot of ways. There are presently 2,000 copies of this book on the census that have a blue label 9.8. There have been about just shy of 800 sales, and the book has an FMV, according to Go Collect, of $475. We have 1 year, 90-day, and 30-day data. So let's go ahead and drill into this 9.8 to see how this book is performing. And you can see from the very simple graph that this is a downward trajectory on the value of this book. And the most recent sale for this book was in December. $447 was the price. And if we back up to the start of the quarter, the book was selling then for $482. That's a $35 decline, not a massive decline from October to December. It's about a 7% decline. But again, I think that the real story is told as we back up maybe to the beginning of the year to see how this book has performed. This book was selling at the start of the year for $979, and again, has fallen to $447. That's a $533 decline over the course of the year, or about 54% of its value has been given back as the year has gone on. And if you back all the way up to the high water mark, at least for what we were able, oh no, actually I wanted to go to, do I want to go to January? I don't know if I pulled the right data. I may have not pulled the right data on this one. I don't think that that's the right number. No, I don't think that. Oh, maybe it is. So I can't do the math in my head, so my apologies on that. But the book in May of 2021 was selling for $12.92, and I have down here a 65% decline from this point, I think, to the end of the year. Somebody may have to fact check me on that. I may have written down the wrong date on my notes, and again, I can't do a percent decrease in my head, so apologies for that. But there is no doubt about it that the value of this book has fallen off dramatically as we've gone from, again, super high water mark in May of 2021 to the present day in December of 2022. Again, none of these books are terrible. None of these are bad books, but again, depending upon, you know, who you are, what your financial situation is, what your interests are, these could be books that you've been priced out of. Maybe that you are fans of these characters and maybe you want to snag these books now. I remember enjoying reading Young Avengers, and I don't know that I would have paid, what was that price? I don't know that I would have paid $1,100 for this book back in the day, or even in present day, I should say. But again, $400 is not a bad price. Maybe now is the time. I will defer to you all's judgment to decide what's in your best interest to do. And so I want to go ahead and take a look at one additional book, another book that I think is incredibly popular. I think that this is a book that a lot of folks have really treasured over the years, not necessarily just because of the values, but because of the book itself and the characters. I think people genuinely enjoy Invincible. So I wanted to go ahead and look at this one. And again, we are going to look at the 9.8 for this one. And we're going to zoom in here a little bit. We can see that there are roughly 340 copies of this book on the census, 135 sales, has an FMV, according to Go Collect, of $2,500. And when we zoom in on this one, what we should be able to see is a little bit of fall off in value, a little bit of a fall off, no doubt about it, as we zoom in here to the most recent sale, which was in November. This book was selling for $2,050. That was the most recent sale in November. And as we back up to the start of the quarter, this book was selling for $2,741 or 42. And if you do the math on that, it's a $692 decline, or about a 25% dip over the course of the quarter. Not a ton of money. I mean, that's a meaningful amount of money. If you happen to have bought, early on, you're probably not pleased about that. But I think that the real story is, as we back up maybe to the start of the year, there was no January sale for this book. But if we go back to February, $36.50 is what this book was selling for at the beginning of the year. And now fast forward to the end of the year, 2050, that is, of course, a $1,600 decline, or about 44% fall off between over that time period. And if we back up to the high water mark, that is a massive fall off. This book in September of 2021 was selling for $6,000. And as I just mentioned, has fallen to $2,000. We are talking about a 66% decline in value. If you bought here, you are definitely feeling this one. But again, if you're thinking about picking this book up, if this is a book that you've been priced out of, is $2,000 a good price? I honestly don't know. A lot of people say that they think that the market is going to continue to decline. I don't know. I cannot tell the future. I really cannot tell the future. And again, I'm not the biggest Invincible fan, but there are some folks out there. For the sake of comparison, when you look at the Hulk book that we looked at, the 9.0, the high water mark for that book early on was $13,949, and it has declined to $76.50. That's about a 45% decline. 45% decline, again, a relatively small decline in comparison to maybe what we've seen with Young Avengers or with Invincible. So a couple of really cool books. Again, there's nothing wrong with any of these books, not at all, not in any way, shape, or form. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this look at a couple of really amazing books that have seen some declines in their value. And again, it's up to you to decide how best to use this information. Potentially, you just watch this video and you enjoy it for its entertainment purposes. Other people may watch it and decide to take some action, but the decision at the end of the day is yours. If you enjoyed this video, I want to encourage you to go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. Share it. Go ahead and share the video if you enjoyed it with your community. Help me to get the word out there about the channel and some of the good content that we put out. And if you need to reach out to me for whatever reason, feel free to hit me on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.